Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today, we're discussing a 2021 update of a watch that launched in 2019. This is the Bulgari Octo Finissimo S Chronograph GMT in stainless steel. It is 43 millimeters in diameter. I measure it 9 millimeters thick and 51 millimeters from lug tip to lug tip. It's important to recognize that in transitioning from titanium to steel, the watch has gone from 42 to 43 millimeters, which is what we have right here. It is also a little bit thicker, as the watch in titanium measures 6.9 millimeters thick. This one is rated at 8.95, but again, I measure it 9 on the nose. So it's also a little bit thicker, but you get lume and you get water resistance here. So let's put it on my wrist and get a sense of how it wears. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference, and there's no denying that this is a bigger watch, and it comes across as a bigger watch. On the wrist, it's pushing out to the edge, so I would say realistically, you probably want to have a wrist at least as large as mine to wear this. It lives up to its name. It's pretty thin. For everything that's going on inside and the water resistance, 9 millimeters is admirable, but it is broad. Across the wrist, it's broad in a way that no previous Octo Finissimo has been. Taking a quick look at the bracelet, not a whole lot changes aesthetically. You're familiar with this if you're familiar with the model line. We have pronounced taper, an incredibly broad-shouldered interface with the case that is proprietary, and we have two focal planes. We have these little dips in the center of the links, and they're also polished, and then we have polished flanks and satin primaries, and we have bars retaining the removable links, of which there are many, many, many. So you will be able to size this precisely. There is a friction fit system for both sides of the clasp, so it snaps shut. And then you can see that there's a little well within the links adjacent to the clasp, so when it folds flush into the bracelet, and the resulting combination of bracelet and clasp is actually no thicker than the bracelet by itself. So smart construction there. The case, here's a little bit more distinctive, and I would even say more expressive than in titanium, because rather than media blasting, here we have a combination of brushed satination and polish, and the two surfaces, polished and satin, contrast nicely and really bring out all of the nuances of this case, which allegedly includes upwards of 110 independent facets. You can also see that there is a bit of a dichotomy between the circular form of the primary bezel as well as the sapphire, and then there's faceting that's used for the dial, the inner bezel, and the case itself, as well as the plinth on which the satin finished round bezel is mounted. You can see there's a radial grain, a brushed pattern laid down with a lapping machine that radiates out from an imaginary center point over the hands, and the dial itself features applique indices, satin finished and beveled indices and Arabic numeral 12, and then we have polished and fluted Dauphine hands at center. We have sunken sub-registers with a concentric pattern in each for our constant seconds, our chronograph minutes, and our 24-hour GMT dial. Now you will note the watch includes a 24-hour dial where you might expect to see a chronograph sub-register, and you just saw that this is a semi-instantaneous jumping chronograph, so it is full of clever refinements. One feature that's not well advertised on this model, by the way, screw-down crown, 100 meters, water-resistant. If you pull the crown out, it has a stop seconds function, which is something a standard Octo Finissimo automatic does not have. In order to set the time, what you do is first you screw the crown out, you pull it out. Now you set the time on the 24-hour sub-register. So we're going to set that to, let's set it to midnight, make things easier here. Now, I replace the crown, screw it back in, note double row knurling and a ceramic cabochon, and I have a little push adjuster that allows me to adjust the local hour hand, and that's how I adjust my local time as I travel. Taking a quick look at the reverse side of the watch, you can see that the movement we have here is not based on the Octo Finissimo automatic. That's the BVL 138 micro rotor. This is the peripheral rotor from the automatic tourbillon. Now you can see the peripheral rotor and its winding mechanism are located, yes, peripherally, and they're not pinching pennies, as we get a platinum mass for the rotor rather than some sort of gold or tungsten. So maximum mass for maximum winding efficiency. And with a single mainspring barrel, the result is a generous 55 hours of power reserve. This entire movement is only 3.3 millimeters thick. Inside the donut, if you will, that is the interior of the automatic movement, we have the drivetrain that tells the time, and we have the chronograph mechanism. You can barely just see underneath my pinky finger here that there is a column wheel that's used for selecting the chronograph function. It has a crisp, sharp feel and report, and then a lateral clutch is responsible for engaging the chronograph coupling. All of this beats at 28,800 vibrations per hour, and to further stiffen the movement and brace against shock, there's a full balance bridge for the balance, which I definitely appreciate. And there are really no gimmicks here. To make it thin, they didn't have to build the movement into the case back of the watch. You have a normal display case back. You have extraordinary 100-meter water resistance, so you can absolutely take this swimming. And it's nicely finished, though a combination of mechanical and manual finishing. It's convincing. The closer you get, the more you're convinced that it's as good as anything you'll get from series production Audemars Piguet or FP Journe watches, and I'd actually rate it a little bit above what you get from a run-of-the-mill Jaeger, LeCoultre, or Zenith watch, and those are impressive targets for an aspiring haute horlogerie power like Bulgari, and it's getting there. It now has the ability to build the case, the movement, the bracelet, every part of the watch, including the dial. Bulgari doesn't have all of its manufacturing facilities in one place, but critically, it does own everything you need to create a watch. And this 37 jewel movement is just one part of Bulgari's total competence in building a watch. It's the inside and the outside both, and as you can see, this model is well loomed with differential loom. The hands are a different color from the indices to make it easy to read them at a glance. This is the Octo Finissimo that does everything. The watch that could easily be your one watch. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.